What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Inside Inter Miami. I'm your host, Andre Fernandez, joined as always by Michelle Kaufman. This is episode 101. We celebrated, if you missed it last week, we celebrated our 100th episode anniversary, our milestone episode last week. We had a lot of stuff. We had Dax McCarty join us, but now we're back with Inter Miami 101 as we break down what's going on with
Yes.
what's coming this week and this team. Again, with the seesaw that always seems to be with this team. They come off the big game one victory, and as feared, they go to Nashville and drop one on the road 2-1, and now it's an even series. Back in the same spot they were last year at this point, going to a decisive winner-take-all game 3 at home, this time against Nashville FC. Thanks for everyone. Before we get to anything, Michelle, I'm sure we'll thank everybody later too as well about the prize giveaway. In a matter of minutes, we had 10 people win the prizes Michelle gave away. We'll talk a little bit about
I'm going to
that.
give a shout out. I'm going to give a quick
But go
shout
ahead.
out
Yeah.
and
Okay.
winners.
Yeah. We'll give
Yeah, let me give a shout out.
After
go ahead and get
finish the roundup and tell you guys what we got coming for you. Yeah. Michelle's going to talk about Nashville. She was there in person. What went wrong? What happened to this team that had the chance to advance, to get past, to kind of exercise the demons of last year? We're not able to do that. At least in game 2, they'll have a chance now this week, but now the pressure's on. We'll have reaction from Javier Mascherano talking about that. And we'll look ahead, obviously, to game 3, the big do-or-die situation. Michelle wrote a little bit also about the MLS salary list that came out last week. Any surprises with Inter Miami? We'll talk a little bit about that. Yannik Bright's contract extension, signed a 3-year deal, well-deserved. We'll have some reaction from him on that front. And we'll talk a little bit about this brewing story, this little critique controversy that's going on with Rodrigo de Paul concerning his in-between game trips to Argentina to see his pop star girlfriend and then fly home and continue to focus on soccer, we hope. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then as well, a little update that Michelle got today from the Freedom Park construction. We're getting down to the last stages of that as the construction is getting closer and closer. So we'll dive into all of that. But let's start, Michelle. You have a message to everybody that jumped in and claimed those prizes in a hurry.
Yes, by 7 a.m. Eastern time, the prizes were gone. So I'm sorry for everybody. We had a huge turnout of people emailing and with really nice notes about how much people are enjoying the show, how they tune in every week, they listen over breakfast, whatever. So thank you to everybody who tunes in. And I just want to take this quick opportunity to announce our winners. So we have Leo Estrella of Miami, Mike Watts of Franklin, Tennessee, Meg Lockwood of Poquoson, Virginia, Jose Mogna of Weston. We have Adam Koptowski of Miami, Heidi Paz of Cocoa, Florida, Keenan Castile of West Palm Beach, Martin Fuentes, Clearwater, Ray Sosa, Coral Springs, and AJ Meyer of Miami. So those were our 10 winners. I shipped out the gifts, and according to my UPS tracker, all of them did arrive. So I hope everybody's enjoying their prizes. And for the rest of you, thank you for tuning in and thank you for emailing the nice notes that you did. We really do appreciate it. I feel like we've developed over 100 episodes, somewhat of a community here, which is I guess what podcasts do a lot. So I kind of feel like we've got a community here, which is very nice.
That's great. And a good range there around the state, and very appropriate to have a Leo be one of those 10 winners on this pod.
And someone from Tennessee, because they're playing Nashville in this series.
There you go. So that shows you the range. I mean, hopefully at some point we can expand that possibility of winning if we do this giveaway again down the road. But congrats to everybody who was able to get it. And more importantly, like Michelle said, we thank you for watching and listening to the show for 100+ episodes now as we move on toward the future. But let's dive in. Let's talk about what happened on Saturday. Michelle, you were there. This team, Nashville comes out a lot more like the team we saw in the regular season finale in the first half. Very aggressive. They got a call early, resulted in a penalty kick. They get the 1-0 lead. They add to it. Messi scores late, but that was the thing. Finally got something in the 90th minute. Little too late. They pressured a little bit there at the end, but if they had just been able to do that a little bit earlier, who knows? But as it stands, we know they're headed for the do-or-die game now.
Yeah, they were kind of I was there. The weather was cold and soggy,
Yep.
cold and wet, and the game was that, Inter Miami
It was that too.
to match the weather, match the climate over there. They were a little bit cold, a little bit soggy. Um, you know, Javier Mascherano said it. We had the clip of him last week saying these exact words, that he expected the Nashville team that they saw in the first half in Nashville in the season finale. That is the team he expected to see in this game. Dax McCarty, our guest last week, said the same thing. I expect Nashville to come out on the front foot. I expect an aggressive team the way they were in the first half of the season finale when they completely dominated Miami and took a 2-1 lead before, Messi ended up with a hat trick in that game and they scored 4 unanswered goals. But they were trailing in the first half. And guess what? It was a repeat. It was a repeat, exactly the same. They came out, Nashville was on fire, and they have speed, and they were racing up and down the flanks. Miami, as usual, chasing, which is what they tend to do in these situations. They have trouble in transition. Now, in this case, the first goal was in the 6th minute, and it was on a questionable, I don't know if questionable, the Miami people felt it was questionable. Everyone else seemed to feel that it was, warranted, that Rocco Rios Novo, starting in his 5th game, instead of Oscar Ustadi and goalkeeper, maybe it was a rookie mistake, maybe just a bad moment. He hesitated. He came out and kind of clipped Surridge as Surridge is coming in, and he gets called for a foul. And a lot of people said that's not questionable. They didn't even go to VAR. Javier Mascherano, after the match, was very upset that they didn't go to VAR. He said, we have the tool, at least use it, at least go to VAR and review it and see if it really was worthy of giving a penalty kick at that point in the game. So he was upset and he complained about it after the game. I don't know. What did you think about that particular play?
Yeah, I mean, it was worth a look. I mean, I think it kind of you could see why it was called, but yeah, I mean, I think especially in a playoff game, you kind of should at least take the look. I mean, I've seen it in not just in MLS, not just in soccer, in other leagues. Like, just to how do you not at least review it? I mean, even now, like we just saw the World Series in baseball, like they're reviewing plays more than ever. I don't know. I don't know how you just at least don't take a look at it.
Yeah, and if anything, it gives the referee something to back themselves up on when the other team does complain. They can say, look, we went to VAR and,
Right.
and it was a foul. By not reviewing it, they open up to Javier Mascherano and his team feeling that they should have reviewed it and they didn't review it. And are they getting ripped off? And,
And
to
yeah, it starts the
eliminate
whole
all of that, right? To eliminate all of that, the referee does have the tool, could have just review it. It doesn't take that long. That's what Mascherano said. How it doesn't cost anything and it doesn't take
no.
that long.
And I've seen them
So
review
he said,
less. I've seen them review for
yes, they've
less.
reviewed less. Yeah, they've
Yeah.
reviewed for less. So they didn't review it. They give the PK automatic, which was probably deserved, but could have been reviewed. And and then he scores, and so then they're behind right away in the 6th minute. They're already playing from behind, and then they go down 2-0, and it's just not looking good. And really, they missed chances. They did miss chances. Luis Suarez had a chance. Allende had a chance. Dario Allende had a golden opportunity right in front of the goal and missed it. Those are opportunities in a
Messi
playoff
had a chance
game.
even.
You cannot, Messi had a chance too. Messi had a chance that went wide.
Yeah.
Suarez had a chance that I think was off the post or something, and Allende had a shot that was, close range, point blank, and missed it. So they had 3 opportunities to score early on in the first half, did not. So then they end up trailing, and then yes, Messi ends up scoring. He was frustrated the whole night. You could see Nashville's defense did an excellent job. They did an excellent job of cutting off delivery to him, frustrating him. And finally, in the 89th, 90th minute, he has a beautiful goal, cranks it in. And then Mascherano was hoping that they were going to add a whole bunch of more minutes at the end because maybe they would have a chance now, and they had some momentum, and they ended up adding 6 minutes, which Masha was very upset about. He got a yellow card. So he was upset with the officiating. He wanted more minutes. He wanted a review VAR.
If you remember in game 1, Nashville got, I think it was 11 or 12 minutes 11 minutes of stoppage time, and they ended up scoring.
Yes.
So
yes, it was 11 minutes, and Masha said that. Masha told us after, he said, hey, the first game they gave 11 minutes, and this game they gave 6 minutes. He said, why was there such a big discrepancy? So anyway, bottom line, this team is in the same position that they were in last year. Last year, they went into the playoffs, they were the top seed. Here they were the 3rd seed, but they came in as a higher seed. They won the first game. They went on the road and lost the second game 2-1.
Yep.
Same exact scenario. And now they're coming home, and, common sense would say, oh, they're the better team. They have the big stars. They're coming home. They're going to clinch it on Saturday. But history says last year they lost the home game to Atlanta. So they're in a very precarious. They're in a very precarious position right now.
That's what we said last year. Everything you just said, we said last year too, and we were all wrong. I mean, the one thing, maybe, they're scoring a little more than they did last year. I think they only scored 4 goals in that combined in those 3 games against Atlanta last year. So maybe, but yeah, it's los nervios. The nerves are on again because again,
the pressure's on. The pressure's on. On the other hand, the pressure's on them. On the other hand, they are, I'm sure, even more motivated than they were going into game 3 last year, because I would think they learned their lesson. They all said they have. That last year, I think they waltzed into game 3 just thinking we're going to win this. They know now that that's not a guarantee because they lived that nightmare last year. Let's hear, we have a couple of clips from Javier Mascherano recapping this loss in Nashville. Let's hear what he had to say.
Bueno, claramente en cuanto al arbitraje prefiero no opinar porque después sé cómo funciona el sistema y no quiero estar o que tengan una excusa para venir a decirme algo. Me sorprende, simplemente me sorprende que no hayan ido al VAR para rechequear. Hay una herramienta que es el VAR y no entiendo por qué no van a chequear al VAR. No cuesta nada, si total, de tiempo completo se ha jugado poco y así que demorar unos minutos más en el VAR no cambiaba demasiado con todo lo que se ha demorado. Y dieron solamente 6 minutos cuando en Miami dieron 11, por mucho menos. Pero bueno, tragar la bronca y acumularla durante toda la semana para poder descargarla el sábado que viene en nuestra cancha con nuestra gente. En cuanto a lo de Leo, creo que bueno, en el primer tiempo quizá no lo encontramos a él en situaciones cerca del área, pero encontramos otras situaciones como la de Tadeo, que bueno, que también es muy dudosa y que hay un agarrón, como la jugada de Luis, que va al palo. Es decir, hemos tenido situaciones, no hemos estado finos en el último tercio. Y también hay un mérito del rival, ¿no? Que bueno, que tapó los caminos de alguna u otra manera. Creo que en el segundo tiempo, más allá de que ellos se replegaron bastante más, encontramos algunas situaciones donde quizás no pudimos en el último pase, en el último toque, encontrar un jugador libre. Pero bueno, más allá de eso, creo que los jugadores han hecho un esfuerzo grande. No nos ha alcanzado y bueno, ahora a preparar para poder hacer un gran partido el sábado y pasar la eliminatoria.
Okay, as usual, Javier Mascherano, if you've been watching him this year, he does have a tendency to say, I don't want to say anything about the officials, but, and then he says, he always says, I don't want to say, he said, I don't want to comment on the officials because I don't want to give them excuse to come back and say something to me. But I was very, yes, say something. Yes. So I don't want to comment.
Just want to get fined.
However, he says, I was surprised that they didn't go to VAR. So he is obviously saying something. I'm surprised they didn't go to VAR. He said, we have that tool. Why not use it? I don't understand why they didn't use it. You know, it wouldn't take up too much time. It doesn't cost anything. And then they only gave, you know, there was plenty of time. The game was finished pretty quickly. He said the last game they gave 11 minutes for less, and this time they gave 6 minutes. So I really don't understand that. That's his no comment on the officials. But he says, but all we can do is swallow this anger. He also said in another quote that we had in the hallway with him, we're going to swallow this poison. We're going to swallow this anger, swallow this poison, and accumulate it, keep it with us all week so that we can unleash it next Saturday at home in front of our home fans. I want us to keep this anger and this poison inside us so that we can unleash it at home. He was asked about Leo, why he was not, you know, able to do what he normally does. He said, we didn't find him in good situations, but we did have chances. He mentioned Suarez off the post. He mentioned Allende. He said, unfortunately, we just were not clinical enough in the final third, but you also have to give the opponent credit. He said, you have to give the opponent credit. They did a good job. You know, we tried. We came close in the end, but it just wasn't enough.
Sorry, it's just
So,
I'm just looking at this and it's like, you know, it'd have to be proven on Saturday. It really has, because we've been down this road and all that sounds great. I hope that, you know, that maybe they're going to do something different this year, but it's scary to think. And they were even saying it on the Apple TV broadcast, like, here we go again. Now all the pressure's on them because they're the team with the high expectations. And here we go. They're on the
if they
precipice
lose,
of
I mean, being knocked out, a first round exit 2 years in a row for this team, it doesn't really matter that much what else they did or how many goals they scored or if Leo Messi won the Golden Boot.
Yeah.
If this team doesn't advance from the first round, let alone, I mean, they should advance much farther than the first round, considering the roster they have. And we're going to go into the salaries later, but this team by far spends more money than any other team in the league. And Philadelphia, by the way, spends one of the least, and they've already clinched. They already won both of their playoff games. So anyway, anything less than advancing pretty far deep, I think, is going to be a huge disappointment and failure for this team.
Yeah.
They definitely have to get out of the first round. We have another quick clip from Mascherano about this game.
Es que yo acá no estoy, mira, la realidad que ustedes suelen analizar resultados, yo no analizo el resultado, analizo el juego antes que el resultado. Y bueno, ya obviamente analizaremos qué es lo que hicimos mal, qué tenemos que mejorar, pero eso obviamente será de puertas adentro. No estoy acá para estar señalando hoy qué hicimos mal. Seguramente ustedes, como suelen analizar el resultado, hoy verán todo malo. No es mi caso. Seguramente tenemos cosas que mejorar, pero también hay una realidad. El equipo, más allá de las dificultades en las que nos puso hoy Nashville, ha competido, ha tratado de dar lo mejor, los jugadores se entregaron al máximo. No fue quizás la mejor noche que tuvimos en cuanto a lucidez, pero nada que reprochar a los jugadores en cuanto a la actitud, a la predisposición y a todo lo que han dado. Hasta el final han intentado conseguir el empate, han ido a buscar de todas las maneras posibles. Es fútbol. Hoy no tuvimos esa certeza, o no estuvimos tan certeros, mejor dicho. Bueno, a mejorar todo lo que tengamos que mejorar para, como dije anteriormente, toda la bronca que tenemos hoy, acumularla y largarla el sábado en Miami.
Thank you. That concludes the press conference.
There you go.
So he said, look, he was asked about, you know, specific players that didn't step up and why did the team individually and collectively, you know, why didn't they do better? And he said, look, we analyze the game differently, meaning the media and him. He said, you guys analyze the result. I analyze the performance, the game. And he said, you know, yes, you know, we have things to improve, but I'm not going to sit here and single out specific players. These are things that are done behind closed doors. This is not what I'm going to do, is sit here and single out who played poorly or whatever. He said, you guys will see all the bad, but there are areas we need to improve. But he stressed that the team competed, the team gave its maximum. He said it was not our best night, but I don't have anything to criticize about the team's effort. And then he said what coaches always say, it's football. It's football. It's soccer. It's
Yeah.
football. And he said, we just weren't as sharp tonight. And he said, now we just have to channel that frustration. We have to channel that frustration and come out Saturday and win.
Right.
So yeah, I mean,
That's simple.
the pressure's on. It's simple. The pressure is on. They're down. I mean, they're tied. They're tied
Right.
1-1. They can come
It
home
feels
and win and move on. It feels like
they're down because
right?
of all the pressure. It feels like they're down, but they're not.
It feels like they're down, and it feels like Nashville
That's what's
is
funny.
on
It's a
the
1-1
up
series.
because
Yeah.
it's a 1-1 series, but it's
Right.
almost like those games where you're losing a game and then you tie it at the end. That's how it is for Nashville. They were on the brink of elimination. They now have life, and that gives them a lot of motivation. They were on their way out, and all of a sudden they're tied 1-1, and it's anybody's series. So
Right.
they are feeling super good right now, and Miami has to be feeling a little bit nervous, pressure, whatever. I know that these are all highly paid professional athletes, and this is what they do for a living, but the pressure is all on them. Nashville has nothing to lose and everything to gain, and Miami is in a situation where for the second year in a row they could prove to be a huge disappointment, which would be embarrassing and humiliating for them, to be quite honest. It really would.
Yeah, and it transcends too, because this team, what this franchise has done, we always talk about the monumental steps that they've taken to bring athletes of this caliber, of course, starting with Messi, but even beyond Messi, Luis Suarez and so on. Jordy, this is it for Boosie. This is it for Jordy. There's that too. There's that element as well of not letting them go out on a disappointing note like that would be. So all of that gets piled into Game 3. And if you look at the playoffs so far, even if you look around the league right now, 5 series are still alive, including Inter Miami and Nashville. One of them, which directly would affect the winner if Miami, if they advance. Cincinnati and Columbus are 1-1 as well. So there's a chance. We've been saying if they have to play Cincinnati, have to go to Cincinnati, but there's still a chance. The Columbus Crew, you think Miami had a bad loss. The Columbus Crew flattened Cincinnati 4-0 in that game too. So that's another team that's very much alive. But if that were to happen, then Miami can host the second round, which right now we were thinking them being the 3rd seed might not happen. So that's still alive. That's in play. You look around the league, the other series that are still alive, Charlotte and New York City FC also still alive. We talked about the East having parity. 3 of the series are still going. Philadelphia is the only one that's advanced so far. And out west, San Diego, Portland going to a Game 3.
Yeah, Phil Neville going toe to toe. Phil Neville his team lost badly to San Diego. They're in the same situation where they're about to play. We haven't mentioned this is going to be the 4th game in a row that Miami plays Nashville. 4 games in a row. And Portland is in the same situation with San Diego. They played San Diego in their season finale. They lost, I think it was 4-0, a really bad loss. And now they're tied 1-1. They won in a penalty kick shootout in the second game. So now Portland and San Diego are still going at it in a Game 3. LAFC has advanced and Vancouver.
Right. So if you look at, and then Seattle tied it up as well with Minnesota last night. That was the other one left. LAFC looking really good with the new combo.
Oh my God!
Yes,
Luanga and Son. They are they're a lethal combo.
Yeah,
they're really good, and you have to look at them when I watch that team, and I try to picture Inter Miami playing against that team. I'm thinking, okay, and who's going to be covering those two? Because that is a lethal combo right now. The addition of Son over the summer was a huge addition to LAFC. That team, it was already a good team, but they were struggling some. And with him, it's been on the field and off the field. He's a huge star, and they're making a lot of money with him in Asia. The Korean fans are going crazy for him. And on the field, he's proving to be the real deal.
Yeah, Korea embraces its stars, whether it's in music, movies, sports, you name it. So I'm not surprised that that's carried over now with him being at LAFC. And so if you're looking for this weekend, Friday, the Charlotte New York City FC series will be settled. That game's Friday night. That's the only one on Friday night at 7. Then there's a triple header on Saturday. Minnesota, Seattle at 4, Cincinnati, Columbus at 6, Inter Miami and Nashville at 8, and then the San Diego Portland series concludes on Sunday night. So we're almost ready to wrap up the first round in the MLS playoffs, but there's been some surprises, but we also wanted to talk about other surprises. Any surprises on this MLS salary list when it comes to Miami? I mean, we know Messi's getting paid, but anything else that there's always an eye opener or two.
Yeah, well, first of all, we found out, we didn't know what Rodrigo de Paul was making. We're going to talk about him later, but because the MLSPA, the Players Association, they release twice a year the salary list, the full salary list of the whole league, top to bottom, every player. And so for full transparency, they like the salaries to be out there. So they do it in the spring, and then they do it in the fall, winter. So the players who are signed in the summer, their salaries are not reflected in the spring list. So Rodrigo de Paul is one of those players. He was signed in the summer. It turns out, no surprise, really, that he's the fourth best player on the team at $3.6 million. So, Messi makes $20 million, which is more than some other teams' entire payrolls. So that one player on this team makes more than other teams' entire payrolls. Miami's payroll overall is, I think it's $47 million or something, which is by far the biggest in the league. And then the next on the Miami list, Sergio Busquets, $8.8 million, Jordi Alba, $6 million. Those salaries will obviously be cleared out because they're both retiring next year. Suarez, 1.5, Rodrigo de Paul, 3.6 million. And then Tadeo Allende makes 1 million. He's the fifth, he's right there at 1 million. The other salary that nobody knew was Son Heung-min, that we just talked about, the huge impact that he's having. And it turns out, is the second highest. Messi's base salary is 12 million. 20 million is with all the bonuses and incentives and all that. 12 million is his base. 20 million overall. Son Heung-min overall 11.1 million. So he's number 2 in the whole league. He comes in as number 2 behind Messi, and then Sergio Busquets is number 3. The other surprises, really not huge surprises. One thing that may surprise people is that Alan Obando, who basically has barely played this year, they brought him in, and there was much hoopla when they brought him in. He's making $527,000, and he's been injured and in and out most of the season. And even when he's not injured, he doesn't play. So I don't know that was a great investment, to be honest. Doesn't seem like a great investment, $500,000 for a guy who's just hasn't worked out. Matteo Silvetti, that's another salary we did not know. The new young kid from Argentina who just had a great tournament in the U20 World Cup.
And played.
Final Argentina, played
and
scored.
In game 3 a little bit.
Yeah. Played and scored.
And scored.
And scored a goal that got them to the final.
Oh,
his base salary. Oh, he played.
He got in. I'm saying he got into this game in game 3.
He got into this game. He got into this game.
Sorry.
He got into game 2. His base salary is $490,000 with guaranteed compensation $547,000. So Matteo Silvetti, $547,000 is his salary, and then the one that we don't know is Yannik Bright. Yannik Bright, we know that he got a raise. Unfortunately, for our knowledge and for this list, he didn't make this list because the cutoff was October 1st, and he had just signed last week a new contract for 3 years, which, as I have been saying, and everybody who follows this team pretty much, he was making 80,000 league minimum. He had to be the biggest bargain in the league. Was Yannik Bright. So anyway, they did sign him, locked him up for 3 years, which is a smart move. Let's hear what Yannik had to say. He really is. You'll see when you see this clip why he is such a fan favorite. You're going to see right now.
Good morning.
So Yannik, how does it feel? We talked to you a while back. You said you were close. Now it's done, and it's a long-term deal. Just how does it feel to know that you're going to be around for a long time? And also, are you gonna buy yourself a little something to celebrate?
Well, first of all, it feels great. You know, it's a big relief, I think, from a mental point of view. You know, to like, um, I mean, secures like such a deal, and yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna buy anything myself. Probably, I don't know. I'm not like that. Probably to my mom or something. But and yeah, I mean, if it just feels good, it's a like I said, it's a big relief. Even living wise, you know, it was kind of a struggle before, so hopefully it's gonna be much better right now. And yeah, I mean, I'm
So
happy,
you might
and
get a new place to live, maybe?
we'll see. We'll see. I got a long lease, so I don't know, but
Yannick, there's at least this is what I get from social media. There's a sense of, people are very happy for you. They relate with your story. They feel like they can connect with you. First of all, do you feel that way? And why do you think that is? Is it the community events that you always attend? What is it?
I mean, I think what's nice about my story is that I'm literally just like, you know, I was just a normal guy. You know, I came to the U.S. just to study, and then, you know, through hard work and resilience, I made it. You know what I mean? So if I did, I think anybody can. You know, it's like I said, a lot of times God's plan for me, and you know, I think everybody should always put in hard work, resilience, you know, never stop, and no matter what happens. And I think that's what makes the story better. I think is the fact that, I mean, I wasn't even, you know, supposed to play soccer, and you know, I ended up getting a new deal in Inter Miami, playing with the best of the best. So anything can happen to anyone. So
Yeah, he's a
You
feel
have
good
to
story.
smile, right? He's such a feel-good story. I've mentioned it before, but this kid, he didn't make in Italy. His brother actually was the better player of the two of them, or
Hmm.
so they thought. He and his brother both tried out for an academy in Italy, and his brother made it, and he was cut. And he was really sad and bummed and thought that that was the end of his soccer career. And his dad, who was a truck driver, said to him, "Why don't you go to the United States? You're a very good student." He was a very good student. And the father said, "Why don't you go to the United States? They have college soccer there. You can get an education, and at the same time, you can play the sport that you love." And so he went to a tryout that the college scouts were having in Italy, and University of New Hampshire, one of the assistant coaches just fell in love with him and called the head coach and said, I found the guy. I found a diamond in the rough. We got to bring this guy." So he ends up at the University of New Hampshire. Okay, he grew up in Italy and goes to University of New Hampshire, ends up, graduating cum laude or magna cum laude in finance, is an excellent student, was academic, all everything, drafted by Inter Miami, ends up being a starter, and now is playing with Messi and all these guys and gets a long-term deal. So, like he said, it's a story that people can relate to because he's just a regular guy. He didn't come in here with any big hoopla. He didn't come in here with a big salary or with any fame or fortune. He arrived as a college kid.
Yep. Let's hear what Javier Mascherano had to say about Yannik Bright.
Yannik Bright.
Sí.
Porque Yannik Bright firmó un contrato nuevo. ¿Puedes hablar de
Una gran noticia para el club. Creo que Yannick no es solamente el presente, sino el futuro de este equipo. Sobre todo también, si uno empieza a planificar el año que viene, que Bussi ya no va a estar, es importante, más allá de otros jugadores que puedan venir, poder tener la tranquilidad que Yannick va a estar, y creo que sobre todo muy contento por él porque él se había ganado esa renovación, se lo había ganado en la cancha, así que muy feliz por él.
Gracias.
¿Listo? Chao, hasta luego.
Okay, so Javier Mascherano, again, heaping praise, saying this is great news for the club. Yannick is not only the present, but the future of this club. He said when you start to plan for next year and Bussi is going to be gone, they play same position, defensive midfield. He said Bussi is going to be gone. It's really important for the team to have Yannick on the roster, even though other players may come. It's really important that they were able to have the reassurance that they're going to have Yannik Bright in the defensive midfield. And he said, "I'm very happy for him. because he earned it. Most of all, he earned it. He earned it on the field. Now, by the way, I will say, P.S. Javier, he loves Bright. He always talks about him, loves him, just said it right there. Yannik didn't get in the game in game 2. Yannik did not get in the game in game 2. He was on the bench the entire game, didn't come in. I will be very curious to see if he comes in game 3.
It's possible. Maybe that's one of the adjustments they make. They get him in there in the third game. I'm sure there might be some changes. There's got to be going into this game to adjust to all this Nashville momentum. And let's talk a little bit about also, we have a couple things we want to go over before we wrap the episode up. Rodrigo de Paul, I know we mentioned it before. What's up with these trips to Argentina and back, Michelle? It's rubbing people the wrong way that he's flying out there, flying right back. I mean, he's not missing anything in between, but people think, should he be completely 100% zoned in? Is that the right? I mean, what's the right approach?
I don't know. It's debatable. It's debatable. So the story is that Rodrigo de Paul, after the first game, which was played on a Friday night, he apparently booked a private jet and went to Argentina to see his girlfriend. His girlfriend is a pop star, Teeny. Her name is Teeny Stossel, but they just call her Teeny. Anyway, I don't follow her music. I'm sure she's great. But anyway, that's his girlfriend. He has a pop star girlfriend. David Beckham, as we know, is his idol. He copied all of his hairdos. He copied a lot of stuff from David Beckham and really admires him. And he also has a pop star girlfriend, like David Beckham has a pop star wife. Anyway, Rodrigo de Paul flew to Argentina on that Saturday and stayed for 2 days. He was back on Monday for training. The team was off for 2 days. So they played on Friday. They were off Saturday and Sunday. He was back at training Monday morning with everybody else. He was not missing from training, according to Javier Mascherano. We were not there. But Mascherano says that he was there on Monday. We're going to take him for his word, and that he did not miss any training. And then we're going to hear from Mascherano about this topic, about what he thinks. And then after this last game against Nashville, there are videos of him on Instagram in Argentina again on Sunday after the loss, again at a performance of his girlfriend. And then, would come back, I guess, to train with the team this week because they do get days off. So the question is, should players during their off days be allowed to do whatever they want? It's their private life. They should do whatever they want as long as they're not missing any training. Is there anything wrong with taking an 8-hour flight to Argentina and coming back as long as you don't miss any training? What do you think? I'll tell you what I think, and then we're going to hear what Mascherano thinks.
I mean, I know I'm kind of on the yes, they have their personal life. They should have a right to and all of that. The only issue is a little bit risky because we've seen it before. Things might happen to somebody when you're out and about. You know what I mean? We've seen it. I'm not saying in this case, but I think of NFL examples where someone has a motorcycle accident or something like that because they're on their time off doing stuff. I'm not saying he's going off and doing anything risky. He's literally just flying back and forth. But you asked the question in general. I guess it just depends too on, it's a hard topic because I think people have a right to do to their, their privacy. They're doing what they do, their personal lives and all that. As long as you don't put your career and the team at risk, I guess is the middle ground, I would say. In this case, it doesn't sound like he is, outside of, being away and risking a delay or something like that and getting back if, something that may be out of his control, but that luckily hasn't happened so far, at least. But that would be the one little area where I've seen it before, not just in this sport, in other sports too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that they do have a right in their private time to do what they want. It's not like all the players are sitting around studying film, studying video 24/7,
right,
preparing during their off days. They're not. I mean, the ones who have kids are going to do things with their kids. They're going to watch their kids' games, or they're taking them to the movies, or if they don't have kids, they're doing stuff with their friends, or they're meeting up with their family, or maybe they take a shorter trip
Yeah.
that's not all the way to Argentina. The ones who maybe live closer, maybe fly to another city in the United States to visit their relative or something or other. So I don't think that you can say that all athletes need to just sit and be in a cocoon for 24/7 during their off days. They have a right to have a life. On the other hand, it's a little bit of a bad look that your team just lost. Your team is in the middle of a really high stakes series, and it makes it look like is he really taking it that seriously? Is he focusing on the task at hand? And what you're talking about, the possibility that what if there's bad weather and the flight gets canceled? You
Right.
know, what if something
That's the
happens
risky
and he
part.
doesn't
Yeah.
get back for training?
Yeah.
Then you're missing training because you chose to go to a concert to see your girlfriend, which you could do
And not
when the
around the
season
corner.
ends. And I know, yeah, and I know that this season is really long, and that's the other thing. These guys get no free time. They have been going since January when training camp started in January. We are now in November. For goodness,
Yeah.
I can tell you as a sports writer, it's hard for me to find a weekend to do something with my husband. You know, we look at the calendar and he's like, Michelle, what weekend are you off that we can celebrate our anniversary? And I'm like, well, it's going to have to be maybe in December. You know, so I understand that guys want to have some time. Flying to Argentina is a really long trip. It's risky. It's not a great look. My opinion, you should not travel that far in the middle of a playoff series. I don't have any problem with them having a personal life, having free time doing. I think traveling that far is risky. And like you said, he's been lucky so far. But if something were to go wrong, I think he would probably regret it. Let's see what Javier Mascherano was asked about it. How does he feel about it? Let's see what he said.
Pero para Rodrigo viajó el fin de semana porque nosotros sábado y domingo dimos libre. Eh, Tenía que viajar a Argentina por unos temas personales y le dimos ese permiso. El lunes estaba acá entrenando junto al resto del equipo, así que, digamos, yo soy de los entrenadores que cuando da el libre no le preguntás a los jugadores qué tienen que hacer. Para eso estás dando libre. Su vida privada es su vida privada. No tengo por qué estar metiéndome en su vida privada. También te digo que nosotros sabíamos que él tenía que viajar por unos temas personales que él tenía que resolver en Argentina y justo aprovechó el fin de semana para hacerlo.
Okay, so Javier Mascherano said, look, we gave him permission. We gave the team off Saturday and Sunday. This is last week he was speaking. We gave him off Saturday and Sunday. He had to go to Argentina for personal reasons. He told us that. We gave him permission. When a coach gives the players 2 days off, you don't ask them, what are you going to be doing during your two days off? This is, his prerogative. He has a private life. Also, I will throw in here, this is not Mascherano, this is me speaking. Rodrigo de Paul does have 2 children. I believe they live in Argentina. And I think that also he was going to see his girlfriend, but also see 2 children from a previous relationship. They live in Argentina. I think that was also part of the trip, was to see the girlfriend and also to see his kids. Anyway, Javier Mascherano said, free time is free time. Players are, allowed to have a personal life. And he just shrugged it off and didn't seem to have any problem with it. So,
yeah. I just think
so there you go. All of you can share your views.
it's the risk. It's just as long
yeah,
as the risk factor.
Yeah, as long as it all turns out okay and the flights get in on time and everything is fine and he shows up at practice and doesn't miss anything, then I think it's fine. But you are running a risk when you do that. You are running a risk when you take that long of a trip.
As far as we know, he's not skydiving. He's not doing anything insane like, dirt biking out there and risking getting hurt, stuff like that. But there are things that are out of your control. Logistics issues happen at as far as flight delays and things like that. And he's not going to see her up in Palm Beach. He's going to see her in Argentina. It's not around the corner.
It's not like it's not a short flight
or
where if the flight is canceled, you could get in a car and drive. He can't drive from Argentina to Miami. He's relying on airplanes. And so, you are taking a risk. Anytime you're relying on airplanes, the United States now is in a government shutdown. There's delays at the airport sometimes. You never know. So you are taking a bit of a risk, and you are putting your team at a little bit of risk, and you're thinking of yourself more than the team, I think, at that point when you made that decision.
Well, we'll see how that situation progresses. And we want to wrap up by talking a little bit about the stadium. Freedom Park, Michelle, reached another milestone in the construction process. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, just news that was just coming out on Tuesday is that the final beam, anyone who lives in Miami, and you'll be able to see, because I'll have a story that will have some visuals. So if you don't live in Miami, please look at my story at miamiherald.com. The stadium is going up really fast. It's amazing how quickly it's gone from nothing, from a dirt pile on the land next to the airport, to all of a sudden it is a full-on stadium. It looks like a big giant stadium, and the parking garage is up, and
yeah.
The parking garage went up in about 5 minutes. The stadium is going up, and so the news on Tuesday was that the final beam that they were putting up, the final big beam of the stadium, was signed by David Beckham, Jorge Mas, and Jose Mas. They like engraved it with their signatures, and it says "Freedom to Dream," which is the theme, the motto of this club that, Jorge Mas has always said, coming from an immigrant family from Cuba, that, his family arrived with a dime in their pocket. And now, let's be honest, the guy's a billionaire, and he's got Lionel Messi playing on his team, and he's building a $300 million stadium. So freedom to dream. The guy is a big dreamer. Whatever you think about moves the team has made or whatever, the Mas brothers are big dreamers. They're an immigrant family who have done very well for themselves. And so freedom to dream is on the inside of the shirt, of the jersey of the team wears. It says freedom to dream in the shirt. And it also says freedom to dream on the beam that was hoisted on the stadium yesterday so the stadium is coming along, and this is another milestone, and it is supposed to, from every indication, they will play all of their 2026 home games at that stadium, Miami Freedom Park, not anymore at Chase Stadium. So, whether it will be at the very beginning of the season, whether it be ready, or will they play a stretch of games on the road first to give a cushion to let them complete the construction, which does happen in other cities that have had stadiums built. They play maybe 4 games on the road first in March so that they give a cushion in case there are weather delays or other delays in the stadium, and then they open with their opening game in the new stadium in April. So anyway, whether it's March or April, it looks like things are coming along on schedule with this stadium, and it's a good looking stadium. It really is pretty. It's not that big. It's 25,000 seats. So we're not talking about a huge stadium, but it has all the bells and whistles. It has very fancy lounges, and it's going to, it's not going to look like Chase Stadium. No offense. Chase Stadium is a great temporary home, but it feels like a temporary home. It's metal bleachers that are decorated nicely and covered up with pretty banners. This is a concrete. This stadium is actually built of concrete, and it's going to have all the bells and whistles that the fans will want.
Yeah, and if you do live in Miami, or you're in Miami at some point, and you drive through that 936 Lejeune Road corridor heading toward the airport, and want to look off to if you're heading north and you want to look off to your right, or you're heading south, look off to your left, carefully,
or pull over.
Yeah, or if you're stuck at certain hours in that ungodly traffic log jam that happens, it seems like every freaking day between like 3:30 and 7 in that corridor. You could see the stadium, big, huge there. You're not going to miss it. You can see the parking garage too, which is closer to the street. And yeah, pretty remarkable. Like Michelle said, it's interesting how fast this has gone up.
But the Mas brothers are in the construction business, and so
right.
This is what they do. They built Chase Stadium in 18 months. In 18 months, they built Chase Stadium, and it was an emergency that they had to build it so quickly because they wanted all these different sites in
Right.
Miami, and they were rejected everywhere they went. They were rejected by the city, by the commissioners. So they said, "Fine, we're going to go to Fort Lauderdale. We have to start this team." And they went over there, and in 18 months, they put up that stadium from nothing. So, this is the Moss brothers. This is their business. This is their specialty. They have a lot of connections in the construction business, and I have no idea the manpower that is going into this has to be massive. And we are in the media. We had a first tour, which I showed you guys on one of our previous episodes. And we're going to get another tour in November. So that I'm excited to see in the next few weeks, all of you will get to watch because I will be there and we'll have photos and video of how it looks from the inside.
Yeah, it's good because we've been speculating how long it may take past the start of next season to get this thing underway and get it operational. But it looks like they're going to have a fully operational Death Star by the maybe by April, by May of next year, and not have to wait too long. It'd be good to get some games in before they get to the World Cup madness come June.
Yes.
So it looks like they're on schedule to do that. So we'll be back next week to talk about whether the season's over or if they've moved on, and see if they actually will even know on Saturday night. By the time Inter Miami is getting ready to kick off, we'll probably know, or shortly thereafter, we'll know who the potential opponent is. Since, as mentioned before, that Columbus-Cincinnati game is at 6:00 in the time slot right before Inter Miami and Nashville. But
right, and if Columbus wins that series, then the Eastern Conference semifinals in Miami. But otherwise, they have to travel to Cincinnati.
Right, but we'll know then. But of course, no scoreboard watching for Inter Miami. They have to take care of business against Nashville and make sure they don't have the embarrassing result they had last year. And we'll see. We'll be back next week to talk about which scenario happened. We'll recap all of that, and we'll look forward to the future of the franchise, whether it's to talk about the next round or next season. And until then, for Michelle Kaufman, I'm Andre Fernandez. Thanks as always for watching Inside Inter Miami. We'll see you next week.